Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon, as we got plenty to talk about. A little late today on Mondays, but hey, you should be used to it by now because Sam Pittman met with the media, so we'll have plenty of that from the press conference. We'll recap the weekend with a little bit of best and worst of the weekend, sponsored by the Leroy Lounge. Always look forward to that. And, of course, get to your phone calls and to your chats. If you want in on the phone lines, 478-344-6623 is that number to call in. But really glad that the prodigal son could finally come home and Andrew Ellis making his appearance. How was the Mouse House, man? Did it do you well? Was it a good, well-earned trip?
Yeah, it was definitely a great trip. I am exhausted, and it was one of those trips that was the perfect length where, like, if it had been a day longer, I would have gone a little bit manic. And if it was a day shorter, I would have been a little bit depressed coming home. And so I feel like I got what I needed to do. I was a little too unplugged, though. I was having some FOMO watching y'all hang out with Bob in Arlington, but we did have a lot of fun, though.
I love how the part occurs. He's like hanging out with Bob. That was the thing he had the FOMO about, was just hanging out with Bob down there in Arlington, or in Dallas, I should say.
Well, I told you guys, I was like, I kind of secretly hope Arkansas gets waxed against Baylor because I don't want to miss out on, Austin, the first notable win of the Cal era. So I'm glad that they waited for the Pacific game for me to be there, and that'll be good.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's right. You might be waiting for a while for that first signature win. So Thanksgiving, maybe, is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's what we're on pace for at this point in time. So, but I know that we're going to have plenty of basketball to talk about. And again, folks, if you've missed out on any of the content post-Baylor, of course, with Pod at the Palace and everything, you need to subscribe to Inside Arkansas here on the YouTube page. Curtis has been putting it out each and every day. And I have a feeling that later tonight there might be some pretty important content that you all need to make sure you tune into. So be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, have your noties on the Inside Arkansas YouTube page. We might be doing a little live action later.
Yep, a little live action, that is for sure. But again, we're going to have plenty to talk about, but also happy Veterans Day to everybody out there, all the veterans that have served, and we appreciate your service and all that you've done and making this country great and protecting us and protecting our freedoms and everything. So I want to make sure we do that before people start yelling in the chat, being, oh, you didn't realize it's Veterans Day, you hate America. No, happy Veterans Day, folks. That's all right. Just wanted to make sure that you all know that, but it's an important day for that. But either way, Sam Pittman, his press conference, didn't get a chance to hear from the lad yesterday or last week. I guess we did in the SEC teleconference. But it is Texas week after all, which I know everyone's so pumped up and excited to see the Longhorns coming to town because Arkansas always performs really well at home. But either way, a few things of note coming out of this press conference from Sam Pittman, and we'll get to a few things. But I believe, which is funny because it took forever to get there, I believe that the injuries and current status of certain Razorbacks was pretty important, one of which being Taylon Green, the quarterback, among others. But here's what Sam Pittman had to say about Taylon Green, as well as other injuries to certain players.
Practiced every day last week, and I believe that he'll be fine. Braxton's going to practice today. We'll see how long he lasts or if he can go for an extended period of time. I think that's June Causer's beat up a little bit. I think that's about it.
Also went on to say Braylon Russell is going to be okay. So the few players we'll get to, also just Jaquindon Jackson looks like he's going to be practicing and all of that. But just starting with Taylon Green, guys, are you a little surprised? How do you feel about his status, just given the statement there by Sam Pittman? You feel like we're going to see him in full stride and full health against Texas on Saturday?
I mean, I don't know about that. He bounced back pretty quick for that was the LSU game, through the bye, but he clearly wasn't quite 100% yet for that one. They wouldn't run him. And so I don't know if it's going to be a situation like that, but the fact that he's been out there practicing is a good thing. I know they mostly did walkthroughs last week, and he said on the teleconference that Taylon was available for those. And then I guess it was on Wednesday. He was like, but I don't know if he's going to be ready for practice tomorrow. So they might've actually gotten after it a little bit Thursday. And, him being at practice, I don't know that necessarily means he was taking all the reps and participating and everything. There's a lot of context there that maybe we don't know about, but like the title of the show today is, can the Hogs compete against Texas? Well, if you're going to do that, you got to have all your dudes, right? And so it sounds like they're at least, potentially on track for that between Taylon, Jaquindon Jackson. He also mentioned as he expects him to return to practice today. he sounded the most non-optimistic, I thought, about Jaquindon Jackson, where he was just kind of like, we'll see how he feels and how much we can get out of him, whatever. But at least he's going to be back out at practice. And then we've heard this thing about Jalen Braxton coming back to practice for weeks now. So I hope it's true. I'll believe it when I see him out there on the field.
Yeah, it seems like Taylor Green really times his injury as well, right before the bye week. That's when he decides to leave the game, and then he has a full week and a half to recover, and then, we don't get to see him. So we just have to speculate on what we think he was doing. But if you remember that LSU game, Curtis, you said that he didn't run. He clearly wasn't 100% in that game. I believe he only had 3 design run attempts, then 3 sacks, of course. But, that was his by far his lowest run game usage of the year. So I wouldn't be stunned if we see something like that against Texas. So I believe that's probably why Sam Pittman is leaning into, he's been running circles around this defensive bracket. He's just running all over the place. Be ready to guard the entire field. Maybe he's a little bit of gamesmanship there, but I agree. Didn't like the vibes from Jaquindon Jackson, what he said about them, or in Jalen Braxton. Until we hear something real definitive, I'm not going to expect him to be back anytime soon. Would have liked to see him on the depth chart today, but it is what it is. Overall, Pittman seems pretty happy. Seems like they're headed in the right direction from an injury standpoint. Everyone's fine.
They have apparently opened up the competition at 3 to 4 spots in the secondary. It's not reflected everywhere with the oars, but what did he say? If you asked me who was going to start at safety, I'd tell you to wait a couple days, and that's probably true at corner. So I want to know who the one solidified spot is in the secondary. Is it Hudson Clark at the opposite corner? Is that where we're at right now? If I had to guess, I would say it's either Cuddy, although that was rough stuff against Ole Miss. It might be Jaden Johnson.
Yeah,
he
might be
coach on the field. TJ Metcalf,
maybe, yeah.
Or but I guess him and Hudson Clark could technically be an or as well. Hudson Clark's just a permanent or with everyone.
That's right.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I think it's. I mean, you can look at it in a good way that they're leaving it open to debate on whether or not certain players are going to be playing in the secondary, considering that Ole Miss set every single record from here to Hanoi against Arkansas offensively. So at least all bets are off, and all places are getting challenged for who could be a starter there in the secondary. But there's no doubt. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I liked his reasoning behind that. I mean, he acknowledged that they've got this pattern about the defense just falling off of a cliff late in years. And he felt like he needed to create competition to keep guys motivated and locked in to maybe avoid that. So at least he's seeing the trend and trying to reverse it. I'll give him credit for that, as opposed to, knowing a zone defense is coming, but not preparing for it until halftime of a basketball game. They'll get out in front of it a little bit,
Well, and also Sam Pittman's typically pretty good off bye weeks. He wasn't as great off of his first bye week. It's a shot at redemption. I mean, a broken lightning's not going to strike twice. So I think Sam Pittman is he's got to defend his belt, his honor as a bye week guru. And so you might see a different version of this Arkansas team. Who knows?
Well, and also with Arkansas and how Sam Pittman's talked about injuries and handled injuries and bringing it all up. I'm going to be honest, guys. Not that it's any sort of breaking news. I am just extremely concerned that. And maybe this is pessimistic in me, but I just think I'm extremely concerned this is going to be a nightmare. This is going to be a nightmare on Saturday. And hearing Sam Pittman talk today, I didn't expect it to change my mind, but there was really nothing said or nothing done where I'm like, okay, well, maybe there'll be something about this here. Because Taylor Green, you got to have him out there, but he's going to, but it still doesn't sound overly confident. He's still same thing with Jaquindon Jackson. Same thing with a lot of the players. Jalen Braxton's going to be in, and that's all well and good, but it doesn't matter if you can't stop anybody. Texas is extremely motivated coming into this game. Sark's going to want to kick the crap out of you for the embarrassment that they had a couple years ago in Fayetteville. And, I just am very, very concerned, and especially the way the team plays at home, that this is going to go really bad for Arkansas very quickly. And there's nothing about it today that gave me any other hopes.
I feel you, man. And that's just it. Texas is really good. They're good enough to just walk in somebody else's house and blow them out, even if they're at full strength and, firing on all cylinders. So there's always going to be a level of concern when you're playing a football team that is that good. For me, I want it to be because Texas is out there and they're the better team. And I don't want it to be
Yes.
because Arkansas has let go of the rope. That's what I want to see, is because that worried me in the Ole Miss game. And I know you've got the clip of it, John, so I won't get too far into it. But Pittman finally is openly admitting that they just didn't play hard against Ole Miss, comparatively speaking, to how they have in other games. That's what I just can't stomach seeing on Saturday. If you go play in your full strength, and even if it's like some of these other losses where they're kind of flying around, but they're making some mistakes and, turn it over. That stuff is really irritating, but playing hard, representing the program the right way, that's what I want to see, whether they win or lose.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and play that clip that you're referring to so we can discuss it, because I think it is pretty interesting. Sam Pittman talking about the Ole Miss game and also other defensive performances they've had.
I think we played as hard against Ole Miss. I did not feel that way against LSU. I thought that we played hard. I thought our matchup that night wasn't great. Nussmeier was really on, and so were the wide receivers. But we were 16-10 with 5 minutes left in the third with the ball. Ole Miss was certainly a different story. It was almost like they knew exactly what we were going to do defensively and could combat it, because Dart was certainly on. We couldn't get to him, and we had a hard time covering them. I think, to answer your question, our concern is more about a trend that went last year and to this point. And last year, we didn't challenge. In other words, we didn't say, hey, let's put somebody, let's give another opportunity here. And this year we have. So, like I say before, we tried so many different things against Ole Miss that none of them seemed to work. But it all goes down to, I just didn't feel like we played as hard as what we normally do. And we've got to certainly get back to that to have a chance.
So didn't play as hard. I'm not saying it's not true, but it also seems a pretty simplistic way of, yeah, but even if you played hard, I don't think you're going to have any answer for Ole Miss whatsoever at all.
Yeah,
Probably
well,
not. They didn't in the beginning of the game, so yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like they let go of the rope after a certain point. The LSU game was, I would say, closer to being that, where you had a little bit of fight there, and then there reached a point. But yeah, Ole Miss was tough from the jump. But Curtis, you touched on it. Like, we can always kind of tell the difference between just not being good enough to win a game and not being willing to compete in a game. And I think that's what you saw kind of in that LSU and Ole Miss game, although you could argue they quit in both. And I definitely think we're going to see a more motivated Arkansas team coming off a bye week. Maybe they're a little bit healthier, but you just have all the Texas guys on the roster. If nothing else, this coaching staff should have plenty of motivation to kind of show themselves on a national stage, even though it's 11 a.m. against one of the best teams and best brands in the country. So I feel like this is a game that, like, even if Arkansas is going to quit later in the year against like Missouri, I don't think it would disqualify them from getting up for this game, because I don't know how they wouldn't, frankly, other than it just being 11 a.m. and them not caring about the season. But I do think we're going to see a better version of the Arkansas team, but just might not be enough. You might not be good enough, and we can live with that. We really can.
The cliche here, but I think it's true again in this game. They got to get off to a good start, man. They really do, because once you've seen, some letting go of the rope once, it's easy to get back to that point. So it doesn't mean that you're done for the season. The guys have packed up shop. They don't care, because you're right. I think they're going to be really motivated for this game. And so they have to come out and play motivated out of the gates. I'm not saying they got to take the lead on the first drive or whatever, but you got to ball out a little bit, because what I'm worried about now is this team vulnerable to when you get punched in the mouth or a little bit of adversity strikes and you fall behind, or they just like, and then you kind of start to see some of those habits that might have been forming the last couple of weeks jump back in, and that's how it could get ugly.
And it can get ugly fast. And I know that a game has to take place before everybody starts accepting that reality. But I'm not expecting Arkansas to beat Texas. I don't think anyone should expect Arkansas to beat Texas this weekend. You can be optimistic, but it's just not happening. But it goes back to the kind of the point you guys were talking about and how I feel. It's not about beating Texas or losing to Texas. It's about getting embarrassed at home again. And if Arkansas gets embarrassed at home again, that, to me, there has to be changes. I mean, it's plain and simple. If you get beat by 17 points, but going into the fourth quarter, the game was still in doubt, still at least there, I'm not going to be happy, but it's like, okay, hey, Texas is just a better team, like you said, Kurt. But if I see people heading to the exits at halftime and not coming back, we got to change it. It's got to happen. And that's the fear that I have right now, as I have it for Razorback fans and I have it for the football program in general, because, guys, I know I'm going to keep bringing it up, but you think about this team this year and their home and all that. Let's not forget last year with their home games in the month of November, 48-10 lost to Auburn, 48-14 lost to Missouri. And so far in their home games this season, in the month of November, you have a 63-31 thrashing to Ole Miss. If they do that similar thing to Texas, it's not going to be about anything else other than this team has let go of the rope. This team gets worse as the season goes on. And in the month of November, they just throw their hands up and say, hey, let's just get this season over with and end it as quickly as possible. That's what I'm going to take from that. So it's going to be a huge difference maker on how this team loses this game. They're going to lose, but how they lose, I think, is going to be a big, important difference there.
You can't blame anybody for being skeptical for like where this thing is kind of trending. It's up to them to flip the narrative. Yep. They could. I mean, they absolutely could. I mean, they're talented enough to go out there and play a competitive 4-quarter football game with Texas. They've proven they're competitive enough. They can go out there and be competitive with anybody, but it's just a matter of doing it. So they kind of created this situation themselves, and it's up to them to kind of prove, the people who are doubting that they can get back on track wrong. But yeah, I mean, you were talking about if it happens, a change has to be made and everything. I mean, for the people who are, holding on to the hip is going to be the undoing card. He didn't sound like a man that was looking to retire to me when he was talking about it today. So he's going to get that thing fixed between the Missouri game and a bowl game and be up and rocking. He says he's going to walk right out of that hospital. So, I don't know. See,
here's my thing though. Texas is definitely not above a little bit of a stinker. Like, they've laid some stinkers this year and just kind of gotten away with it. Like against Oklahoma, they really didn't play well, but Oklahoma was just really bad. They played a really competitive game against Vanderbilt, which Sam Pittman was asked about a little bit. I mean, there's definitely it's not going to stun me if Arkansas is extremely competitive in this game. I think there's a reason why that gambling line isn't more in that 18-21 range. I think there's a little bit of Arkansas has no choice but to show up and play their hardest in this game. Because if they don't, I agree with everything your guys are saying. Where if it's a blowout and if it's one where they roll out or they just kind of roll over and fans are dipping out, it's going to be ugly. But can we also just acknowledge how objectively hilarious it would be if Arkansas won this game? I mean, just one in the grand scheme of college football, you would now have another 2-loss SEC team all just kind of smacked in there. Tennessee would be then positioned to be the number 1 team in the SEC, and their one loss is to freaking Arkansas. It would just make college football so chaotic. Who would have thought Tennessee would be the team that maybe is going to rise to the top after Arkansas beat them? And also for Arkansas, it'd be funny because then the fan base who is pretty much over Pittman we would agree that if he beats Texas, it just changes everything, right?
Yep.
So it would just be the funniest thing that could happen for the grand scheme of college football, for even Texas, for Arkansas. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm just not.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I guess we'll know for sure what the recipe is for Arkansas winning SEC home games. You just got to be ranked in the top 5. You got to play a top 5 ranked team at home, and then you win. But it's the other teams that you don't get. That's the difference. That's the problem. But speaking of the hip, we know it's there. Sam Pittman has mentioned it in passing that it's there. But today we got a pretty good in-depth analysis of what's going on with Pittman and that hip problem. He also went into the rehab time. We'll talk about the rehab in a second, but here's when he was asked about his hip and the current status of that.
Well, my hip, I found out about my hip about 150. Well, once I get to surgery, about 135, 40 days ago. And it just went out. And so I found out I need to get a new hip. And it was at a point in time where it was so close to the season starting that I just didn't feel like I could do it. And as it's gone on, it's gotten sore and sore. I've got I'm bone on bone, and I've got a chip. I've got a broken hip, and which is it is what it is, sore. But as soon as we get through with the Missouri game, between that and the postseason, I'm gonna get a new hip.
What are they?
So we'll get into the rehab in a second, but just starting with there, I'm going to be honest. I truly do feel sorry for Sam Pittman because I've never had a hip injury, but I know older people that have, and it's no picnic. It's it's kind of like back injuries. It impacts your entire body when you have something in your hip that's messed up, and him trying to power through it. Kudos to him. Looks like he's going to have surgery on it, but you can tell, man, this isn't just a little stinger. Or he's got him a hip or whatever. This is something that's been pretty intense on him and has really worn on him this season, especially.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to him for walking around with it all year. He's a warrior. Eric Musselman couldn't make it through the season with a rotator cuff. Sam Pittman has a broken hip.
True.
He's out there grinding, and everybody wants to kick him out of campus. It's unbelievable, But no, I mean, all jokes aside, it is, man. That's cool. Toughen it out because nobody wants to be in pain. And he was talking about how, it's difficult to sit. You can't sleep on it. It's uncomfortable. And that just adds to the stresses that come with being an SEC football coach. And you think about, how they didn't play a game in Fayetteville or different stadiums or whatever for 5 weeks. So he's on planes and buses and hotels and everything. That'll wear on you, man. And so kudos to him for kind of grinding through it. And the good news is, and he's right, because I think you hear that right away and you're like, okay, so he's going to try to get this done after the Missouri game, and he's still going to be able to coach in a bowl and stuff. It's an easier road to recovery than it sounds when you do that. And I don't think it's going to be, he's talking about walking out of there and maybe he's going to get right back to work. That's probably not going to be the case, but it's not as horrific as it sounds.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that he said that. I'm pretty much saying hey, during that bowl prep, I can't imagine he's really going to be that available. But I also just kudos to him because he made this decision seemingly in August or even July, where the season was around the corner. It's one thing to be hey, I'll push my surgery to a week or two. 4 months is a pretty long time to just be, and it's getting worse and worse. And so, yeah, don't envy him at the moment, but credit to him for pushing through. And I understand everyone's reasoning for attaching this to so that just means he'll be done coaching and he'll just move off into the sunset. I get why everyone's doing that, but I think we should also just acknowledge that it's very possible he just has hip surgery. He recovers from it. He's back, in the spring, doing whatever. I don't really think it necessarily spells the end of the Sam Pittman era necessarily, but I also completely understand why that's a narrative that people have tried to really run with.
Well, here in the chat, it comes from M. Witt. He says, as someone who works for a joint replacement surgeon, he says hip replacement recovery is as much easier than a knee or a shoulder. It would only take an off season to get back to normal. So,
yeah. I mean, when I was at Lindenwood, I had a pitcher who had to have it was a labrum tear in his hip. And so he had to have that surgery. And that was in middle of October. And then he was pitching during the season. So, and Sam Pittman's older and so his body's different, but he's also, he needs to be able to be ambulatory. He's got to walk around,
Sean O'Malley recently had the same surgery, Curtis, as you know, and he might be fighting in March. So
yeah. And so
the blueprint is there, buddy. You better be back by spring ball.
Yeah. You never want to get anything replaced on your body. That's not ideal, but it's a doable deal for sure.
Well, I also want to throw it out there. Just, win this Texas game for Sam Pittman's hip. He needs some motivation. Do it for the hip. But also, in a funny way, if he does come back next year and has his hip surgery, what if he just guns it out of the tunnel through the A now? You just see Sam Pittman just hustling through that thing all of a sudden. Be like, all right, Pittman. That's all it took, man. He just needed a new hip. And then suddenly
he's the best coach of all time.
Yeah.
It might have been the whole thing.
Kills it in the portal. Gets the number one class out of the portal. Man, all it took was a new hip. It's amazing what can happen. And finally, speaking of the hip, Sam Pittman went into a little bit more specifics about his rehab time and everything from that as well.
I think that I'll be able to walk out of the surgery, and then I should be. That first week after the Missouri game is kind of a dead week for us because the kids are in finals, or it's the last week of school, I guess. And I wanted to have it where I could move around pretty good by the time that the portal opened, because that's very, very busy. You can sit down and do it, but it's easier to stand up and move around a little bit. But that's really the only time. I just didn't feel like I could get it done before the season and be effective. But it's sore, Tom, you can't ever get off of it. You can't set off of it. You can't sleep off of it. You obviously can't walk off of it. So anybody's had, bone on bone hip, knows that it's irritable and it's hard to sleep in those things. But I've made it 130 something days of it, and I can make it another 19, 20, whatever the number is. It's 22. He's asking.
So that's going to be his process. Also talking like a man that's not in jeopardy of not having a job here at Arkansas next year, does it?
And we just need to move on from that, man.
I hate it. I don't like it, but I get it. I mean, if I'm him, I'm not going to approach it like, if I'm back next year, I'll get this hip surgery and everything. I mean, and he's not going to approach it that way, but still, it's kind of like,
might be a lawsuit in there if he gets fired in the middle of hip surgery. Be like, whoa, wow, we're firing people based on their we're being ableist now.
Yeah, ableist, ageism, something like that. Yeah. One of those that's out there too. So, but yeah, so that's pretty much the majority of what Sam Pittman had to say. I know we'll hear from some players tonight, and we'll have the SEC teleconference. But yeah, Arkansas and Texas. I'll say this, folks, and if you're one of these people, that's fine. But there's a lot of questions that Sam Pittman got asked about the rivalry of Texas and the history and all that. It's important, and we'll talk about that as the week goes on. But I don't know. I just feel like kids these days, the only reason why they even have a hatred for Texas is because of people like me with my dad. It's like my dad brought down that. Because I think Arkansas's played Texas, 5 times since the Southwest Conference. So I just don't know if it's there. But it will mean something. I mean, the game's going to be on ABC. So, national television for a great rivalry. I don't guess it doesn't even have a name. Can't be a rivalry without a name or a trophy. That's what you got to have.
Well, Sam Pittman, he ain't got time for either one of those things. So,
no, he doesn't. So I ain't got time for that. He's like, we got enough stupid trophies as it is. We don't need any other ones. We don't need to go down that road.
Basil's in shambles, man.
I know. He's like, hey, wait a minute. It's like we need more than that. View your chats, folks, and then we'll get into some basketball talk as well and get into your Arkansas update. Let's see. I can just click the starred ones if I wanted to go there. Let's see. Kingsley's over here saying, I broke my... Y'all want to say that word for me? Because I'm not going to.
His ass.
A body part in his hip, yeah.
Gotcha. In a wreck, and they had me up and doing PT for just a few days after surgery. Now that Sam's quite a bit older, but if everything goes well, he should be okay. So good to know.
That's 2 people now because that have done that where they're like, oh, well, I had a hip surgery, but I'm in way better shape than Sam Pittman because our boy Brad G. Razorback was also talking about how he coaches basketball, and he's like, oh, but I could coach in 10. And he was like, but
I
can do 165.
I can do 110 push-ups without stopping. It's like,
but I'm a machine. Yeah, I don't know if Sam Pittman's on that level.
Yeah. But also shout out to Kingsley. Me and Curtis got to hang out with Kingsley for a little bit down in Dallas this past weekend. So it was good seeing you, Kingsley.
Good time. The missus was struggling a little bit because Vandy was getting dealt with by South Carolina, but it was a good time. Good time hanging out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Ellis, you should have been there. You should have really been there. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to give you crap about that. Let's see. Also, Bobby G says, has Arkansas ever been blown out 3 times in a row at home? Yes, Chad Morris years. Go back and look it up. That was literally like 18 times in a row. So, yes, that has happened before. And also, Hickory Hog was saying, I want to respond. He says, I think John was one of them claiming that Pittman was going to retire because of the hip. I was saying that he was going to retire and step down in the summertime before I even really knew about the hip. I just think the hip is adding on to the reasons I thought so. But no, I don't think it's strictly because of the hip.
Well, I would say that's an important clarification. Where like if you're, close to that point where you're wanting to walk away anyway, I could see how the hip might be the thing where you're like, okay, well, this just kind of makes sense timing wise. But I definitely don't think it's going to be like retirement due to hip.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, he was going to be back after the 6-6 season, but that hip, man, just kept him out. It's not going to happen. random question, but you mentioned Muss, Curtis, about with his injury. Has there been any other coaches with Arkansas that's gone through in season or surgeries or injuries or anything like that we can remember? Even in like the national landscape, like football and basketball.
I mean,
like
Sam Pittman might pull a Hugh Freeze and get in that dentist chair up in the press box, coach the bowl game.
Give the thumbs up from there with his glasses on. Yeah.
Muss also had a COVID.
He did.
Yeah. Pittman had the COVID too, right?
Yeah, Pittman had the COVID. That's right.
So, yeah, I think everybody had the COVID at some point in the seasons. But I don't know. The reason I brought that up is like, okay, so Arkansas's football and basketball coach is going to have pretty major like surgeries within a 3-year span, but I don't feel like it's a common thing for any other like major coaches in major sports, though.
DVH food poisoning, which was alleged to be something greater than food poisoning in the SEC tournament in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
The salad from an unnamed location.
Yeah. I think that's how they got Jordan. It wasn't really a flu game. It was the pizza that he ate from down there in Salt Lake City. So, yeah. Also, Heartbroken Hog says, with Pittman, we will always be an up and down team that wins some we shouldn't and lose some we shouldn't. It should be time to move on if we want to take football seriously as a program. So, okay. All right, Heartbroken Hog. I feel you, dog. Perfect little segue here. Let's go ahead and get into your Arkansas or your question of the day presented by Alumni Hall. You can shop Alumni Hall at alumnihall.com/ArkansasDash-Razorbacks. Also shop them online in person, or shop them online in person. Shop in person at their store, not online.
Impressive.
Yeah, you could do it on your phone in the store if you wanted to. But it's there at 3417 North College Avenue. Which, fun fact, folks, we are going to be there this Friday at noon for Inside Arkansas Live once again. So come hang out. A lot of you that are going to be making the trip. You'll get to see us. Maybe we'll be wearing some sweet gear, and you'll be like, man, those guys look good. We made them on back order for the Hawaiian shirts. So whatever we wear, people want to have. But we're going to be out there, so come hang out with us and check it out.
I'm not wearing that Hawaiian shirt this time, though.
Nope.
It's been a lot of time, man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to wear something that's really basic and very underwhelming. I mean, maybe that's what it needs to be. Get down to the brass tacks.
Yeah.
But either way, with basketball, because that's really what people have been talking about, and I know people have been either I won't say the Razorback fans have been concerned overwhelmingly, but there has been some things that they haven't enjoyed. But simply ask the question here: what is your biggest concern with the Razorback basketball team right now? And the choices were poor 3-point shooting, physicality down low, is it the rotations and /subbing / coaching or whatever, and then an other. And right now, 75% of you think that 3-point shooting and how poor it is your main concern, with 19.5% saying the physicality down low is their main concern.
Yeah, I mean, they're 22 of 87 in 4 games from 3, so we can keep saying this is going to be a good 3-point shooting team, and Cal can keep saying I think I got a good 3-point shooting team, but until they make some damn threes, I think that's a fair and valid concern to have. They got to do it. It was good to see Boogie Flang get going. He hit 3 of them, but then John L. Davis slipped, and nobody else was really helping out the cause there. But I'm most concerned about not the physicality down low. I'm concerned about Jonas Adu. I mean, he's not right. And it's good to have him back out there, but you might as well not if he's if this is what he's able to give you right now. And understand the thought process behind, like a guy having to play his way back into shape and knock off Russ, but it hasn't looked like that to me. It's just, I don't think he's close enough to 100% to be out there. He can't even dunk a basketball right now. So you got to have him healthy. If you don't have a healthy Jonas Adu, this team, they're going to struggle this year. They will, because you see in certain matchups, it's going to be tough on Big Z and Trevin Brazil in there. If you don't have Adu to anchor that thing in the paint for 25 minutes a game, it's going to be a struggle bus. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis hit it. He nailed it right there. I think those are the 2 things. And I do want to clarify that I also agree with what Curtis was saying earlier about not necessarily being big picture concerned with this team based on that loss. Like, we still feel very optimistic about kind of the direction that things are going to, the potential for this team to be good. And we kind of expected this Baylor loss to happen. And even though they got blown out by Gonzaga, maybe change that narrative a little bit, it's still like not something we're going to overreact to. But the shooting, it really is tough, because I was one of those same people who was just like made the assumption, Yeah, DJ Wagner, he'll shoot it better. Boogie Flan, he'll be consistent. John L. Davis, he'll continue to be a 40% guy. I just kind of gave Arkansas the benefit of the doubt if you go on down the line, because Arkansas's got a lot of guys that can shoot but aren't necessarily marksmen. Aduthiero hit a couple the other night. I wouldn't say you're going to be counting on him to hit threes consistently. No. DJ Wagner was very inconsistent from three as a freshman. Boogie Fland is a freshman. Carter Knox is a freshman. Trevin Brazil's been kind of up. So it's like you just go on down the line. You can't really afford to have that many variables not go your way. And so I think all those guys that I just listed out are capable of knocking down threes and will hit their fair share of threes down the stretch. But, yeah, you would definitely like to see – you just want to see one game where they shoot it really well, and we can just put it to bed. You can see the potential – because that's honestly what these last couple Must teams really didn't do much of. Last year's team was a little bit more improved, but like they had a couple of years there where they legit never hit double-digit threes. It was crazy. I would like to have just that one game where they shoot lights out and they beat someone bad, and it's like one of those, oh, well, they just got hot from three. I want to see one of those just to know it's in there.
Yeah, people talk about like the struggles with the half court offense. It's too stagnant. Oh, they didn't know how to attack that zone. They just couldn't make threes. I mean, they made some adjustments. They were running good stuff in the second half against the zone and getting some looks. You can't make it. And so if you're not making threes and you give the defense no reason at all to spread out, to stretch out and open up some driving lanes for you, there's just a ceiling. Like there's a cap on what you're going to be able to do offensively. You can run the best actions in the world, but if you don't have guys who can make threes, and right now you don't have, post players who can finish at the rim, then you're just putting a ton of pressure on your guards to make, tough mid-range jumpers or finish in traffic. And they're talented enough to do it. But right now it's that or transition, and you're not getting anything in between.
And it's also like, I want to investigate I want to go to the practice facility over here and investigate it. Because my brother brought it up to me last night when I was talking about it. He's like, how come everybody just gets worse at 3-point shooting when they come to Fayetteville? And I know it's so weird, but it is kind of weird how what is this, year 4 straight where you've had transfers that, I'm not saying they've just been elite shooters, but they've been good at 3-point shooting. And then they come to Fayetteville and it's like, nah, you're going to have to take a 10 percentage point hit on your 3-point percentage as your career. It just was weird. It's so frustrating. And it's also weird, too, because I felt like Mike Anderson in those years, I'm not saying they were perfect at threes, but every year you felt like you had maybe 2 3-point shooters, guys that you could count on, whether it's Antoine Bell and Dusty Hannas or whoever. But it's just been a long time, it feels like, since Arkansas has had much less 2 guys you can count on pretty consistently at the 3-point shot. So, but yeah, that's your question of the day presented by Alumni Hall and dealing with that and basketball, which, they lost on Saturday, and they got another game coming up against Troy Wednesday night, which, by the way, folks, the University of Arkansas Razorback Twitter account let everybody know that if you're not going to the game, to donate tickets so people can use them. It's pretty sad, but just a reminder for all of you out there to make sure you show up to the game if you have tickets. It's sad. We don't need that anymore. But wanted to pass that along for anybody that's out there needing those tickets or wanting to go to those games. Because I don't feel like, guys, Razorback fans have gotten to the point to where they're jumping ship or getting tired of Cal or tired of anything like that. But I want to see a little bit more excitement. I want to see a little bit more energy from the Razorback faithful.
Yeah, they're not showing up. Church on Wednesday.
That's right. Wreck at the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. There's a high school basketball, I'm sure, somewhere, on a Wednesday night, things like that.
Well, if you get the 6 p.m. game, you were at work. I mean, it's hard to get off work. If it's an 8 p.m. game, well, I got to put the kids to bed. I mean, I either got to sleep and I got to go to work. I mean, come on. There's only a few hours in the day.
Yeah. Well, the last time was at 7:00, right smack in the middle, and that didn't matter.
I need dinner. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I cancel my Olive Garden reservation? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Does Olive Garden take reservations? That'd be pretty cool if they did.
I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they would. But yeah, this game's at 7 p.m., folks. SEC Network Plus. But it's going to be at 7:00 on Wednesday night.
John was so put off by Arkansas's performance Saturday that he's wearing his Baylor colors.
That's crazy.
Oh, man. I didn't even realize it. You know what's funny is that it's the guy, random question, a quick story, but the guy, of course, David Locke, who started the Locked On Podcast Network, he's the voice of the Utah Jazz. And the reason I got this shirt, I found out later, was because it was supposed to be, the original logo was the colors of the Utah Jazz, because that was just kind of his thing. And apparently they messed up. So they're like, "Yeah, we'll send it to the host. Let them have it." And so that's why I got it. But it's like, well, it
So
still
that's
fits.
not like a Baylor, like a purposeful Baylor thing.
No purpose. I literally did not even think about that. It's just a shirt.
Wasn't the lockdown Baylor guy there
Probably.
on Saturday?
Yeah. He was.
Too. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Someone
It was
in
a
the
long
chat-
day, Curtis.
someone
It was
in
a
the
long
chat
day.
Was like, oh, John must have lost a bet with the locked on guy. I took him. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
I saw that too, and I was like, what did I do now? Like, geez, man, people. It's like,
Well, that's
like,
okay. We went and ate lunch Saturday before the game, and it was like a melting pot, man. Like there were Indiana jerseys and Alabama and LSU and everything, and I saw like three or four different people in Baylor stuff, and I was sitting there the whole time like, why the hell are there so many Baylor fans here in Dallas? I don't understand. We're watching college football. I forgot Arkansas was playing Baylor in basketball in like 3 hours, so it happens, you know.
Yeah. It does. Well, I just think it's funny because I'm wearing Baylor colors, and you actually got Curtis over there with a Razorback hoodie, one of the new ones from Fayetteville Flyco.
That looks so
Look
good.
at that, the
the Rod Hog.
thing's legit,
Love
man.
it.
Yeah,
Love it. So, yeah, me and Curtis, one trip in Dallas, and we flip our allegiances. Apparently, that's all it took. Yeah, he's in the comments. Everyone's like, "Yeah, well, everyone's getting mad and stuff about that." Yeah, shut up. All right, I'm going to say this too, because Witt's like, when is the announcement of the 5-star? And I'll tell you what, we'll use that as part of our Arkansas update presented by Davis and Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owner's insurance agency, securing what matters the most. He's referring to, of course, Malik Thomas. Curtis, if I'm not mistaken, that announcement is tonight.
Yeah, it's this evening.
Okay.
The end. Like you're not going to get a specific minute. It's been 7:15. It's been 7:45. It's been 6 o'clock. It'll be this evening.
You know what? You know actually the time it is? It's the time when Curtis hits that go live button, because he's going to be here on Inside Arkansas breaking it down in the decision that he ends up making. So just be alert and be aware for that. That's
I'll
when
tell you
it
this right now. If you don't come to Arkansas, I'm not going live and talking about a damn thing. So,
I was just going to say.
I was trying to set it up for some like teasing, like it could go a different way, but I was like, Curtis is like, nah, I ain't. If you don't see me live, you know what happened.
yeah, if you get that notey, then something good just happened. Otherwise,
Here's how he'll fit in the UConn offense.
yeah. Where do they turn now? That'll be the move. But
what's
Arkansas is in a good spot here.
What schools is it down to?
Arkansas, UConn, and Pitt. Pitt's the hometown school.
Okay, but it better be because I
Pitt
still
couldn't get a Duthie Arrow, and they're not getting Malik Thomas.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I know he's not there anymore, but I'm constantly always just going to think that Pitt's coach is still Kevin Stallings. I know he's not there anymore. Is it Jeff Capel? Is that who it is?
Still Capel. Yeah.
Wow.
He's been there for a minute now, like probably 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
They give those coaches, it was with Jamie Dickson, then Kevin Stallings, then Jeff Capel. So
the closest I mean, I've seen 7:15-ish was thrown out, but that was from an East Coast rider.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm just gonna be sitting here about 6 o'clock waiting is what I'm gonna be doing. So
this is great from David. It says whenever Curtis sits down for dinners, then when he'll announce it.
Pretty much, yeah. That's usually how it works, but that's okay.
Yeah, make it happen no matter
As long
what.
as it doesn't, as long as it's not something crazy and it gets delayed until like 9 o'clock at night, I don't care. We'll do it whenever.
Curtis is good about just postponing meal. He just won't eat. If he feels like something's gonna happen, like there's a sporting event, he's just like they'll just go 9 hours without containing any nutrients. It's crazy.
Yeah, I found out the other day with going to the game with Curtis. Like, hey, you gonna eat in the press area or whatever? He's like, I don't eat before games. It's like, oh,
I had
all
some
right.
pretzels in there though. I'm working on it.
I had about 18 bottles of water. I can tell you that. I was having to make a few trips. But still, yeah. Well, just be on the lookout tonight, folks. And be sure to subscribe on Inside Arkansas. And you'll get that good news, that gospel, if that ends up happening. Which is another great transition because there's a lot of things going on that were good and a lot of things not so good. So let's go ahead and get into the best and worst of the weekend. Presented by the Leroy Lounge here in Fayetteville on Dickson Street. We're going to be there Thursday night. Going to have another simulation, this time Arkansas and Texas. I'm sure it'll go well, but we'll be doing that Thursday night starting at 7 p.m., so come hang out with us. Odds are there might be some interesting guests on there for that too, so be on the lookout for that. But we always appreciate them, and it's a great spot with great drinks, great food, great vibes. Got plenty of TVs, all the games for the family, so check them out. It's the Leroy Lounge on Dickson Street. And I'm going to go ahead and start. I have a lot of worst, guys, and I feel like such a negative Nancy. But it's true. I just got a lot of worst when it came to this weekend. But I'm going to give a shout out to two things. I guess a dual thing here. One, hate to do it, Ole Miss. I mean, I got to give credit where credit is due to the Ole Miss Rebels because they were able to go against Georgia and not just beat them, but beat them. Like they were the better team in that game. Started off disastrous for Jackson Dart. Was it because we were watching it in Dallas Curse where he threw a pick. Georgia went right down to score a touchdown. I was like, oh gosh, this is going to get ugly. Fought back. Jackson Dart even got hurt. And then he came back in and they won 28-10. So a huge shout out to them. And now they're right in sole possession of a playoff spot. But also, I wanted to throw out another best for Lane Kiffin because I can always appreciate his wittiness. You know, they had another squirrel on the field, and there was a little bit of a delay there in Oxford. And he was asking about, jokingly, they're like, hey, Lane, do you send the squirrel out there as a field replacement when instead of faking injuries, and that's illegal? Do you do that as a delay just to do that? And he goes, yeah, when the guys get tired, we just send the squirrel out there to make sure that they get back up there. So I like the self-awareness. I like the wittiness. I like the fun. So, but yeah, again, as much as I hate to admit it, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, credit where credit is due. Y'all beat a really good Georgia team, took care of business, tore the goalpost down. There was a party there in Oxford when the rain, and looks like you guys are heading to the playoffs. So kudos to you. Yeah,
man, that was a big time performance from them. And you got a little cold takes exposed action for that, right?
Yeah, man, that was terrible. I never do that either. Like I never really go that way, but that was the one time. The one time I was like, okay, because I felt Georgia was going to win, but when that started, I was like, Jew, and Jackson Dart was hurt. I felt pretty confident. Like, all right, well, thanks for coming out, Ole Miss. Old Takes Exposed gets in, all of a sudden the Rebel faithful comes out at me. They're like, yeah, from their $100 cover bars there in Oxford. It's like, yeah, you moron. Yeah, we came in here and kick your ass back, but we'll do it again. It's like, all right, well, whatever. But appreciate the follow. So, yeah, pretty rough.
I like it. I've got 3 quick ones. Auburn basketball was going to be on my worst of the weekend for fighting on the plane. But like Dylan Cardwell said, this is what happens when you got dogs on a plane. You just get back on it and you go beat Houston on the road. That's crazy work. And I kind of doubted, the ceiling for Auburn basketball, but that's a hell of a win. So good on them for that. Whatever. I don't want to talk too much about Auburn. Caleb Battle. I really enjoyed him when he was here at Arkansas. And I wish he would have been on this team. Didn't go as well for him as probably he thought when he got to Fayetteville. Some of that's probably on him, but it's cool that he found a landing spot at Gonzaga. And we all saw the moment that he had yesterday, but I'm going to play it. It's a good view. Just a nasty dunk that I think was 5th maybe on the SportsCenter top 10. Gross stuff. I mean, what a moment for him right there.
Was that Ricky Council or Caleb Battle?
Seriously, where the hell did that come from, man?
I thought because I hadn't seen the play. I'll be honest, I did not see that play when it was on SportsCenter or whatever. I thought it was just going to be like a really good dunk, but I'm like, was he the one that threw the hoop? Holy crap, he's the one that dunked it, number 99. So yeah, wow, that was intense.
Yeah, that was really impressive, and so good on him. That was electric. I mean, that kind of gave me some chills just hearing the crowd because the Kennel, I mean, that place gets rocking too. And he had a couple of those moments in big games with Arkansas, but he was usually hitting a 3 and then doing his little shimmy. That dunk, man, was nasty work. And then, listen, I think every man should be comfortable enough with their own body to just shove a tortilla down their pants in front of tens of thousands of people.
Tortilla's legal. Is that legal? And Travis Hunter, he just picks one up as a keepsake before the first play of the ball game. He's like,
I mean, why not? Have you guys never put a tortilla down your pants? If not, maybe you need to get with the times.
Only when they get thrown at me.
I don't have any other comment. I mean, I love that. I love keeping the tortilla. Like, I don't know what he's going to do with it. I don't think he's going to eat it. But yeah, just have it. I mean, you get a tortilla thrown at you.
Yeah, man. Is that a thing at Texas Tech? They just do that?
Yep.
I didn't know about this until recently.
Okay.
Yep. It's I don't know, man. Like that's again, college sports I love because of weird zany things like that. But then it's like, okay, throwing tortillas. It's like, hey, leave the throwing, which we'll talk about, but leave the throwing to stuff like hockey when there's a hat trick, throw the hats on the ice.
Maybe he forgot his cup for the game. And so he's like, this will work. Yeah.
Hey, shout out to everyone who bet on Ole Miss and who fired off a live bet of Colorado when they got down early in that game while at Epcot. Not many people doing that.
There we go.
Is it my turn for best of the weekend now?
It is.
Well, I'll just go ahead and you're just gonna play the hits. I built a lightsaber, John. I guaranteed I would.
You did?
I spent an ungodly amount of money on that thing. But it was a nice little thing. The room full of us that were making it, it was like me, a bunch of kids, and then like 2 or 3 adults. And there were a lot of adults with kids. But, you know, it is what it is. I did see a bunch of, it made me feel better seeing a bunch of adults going in and out as I was finishing it up and made me feel better about myself. But it was a good time. They had a nice it's a very immersive experience. We also got a picture there with the Millennium Falcon. John, you recognize that?
Yeah, I've seen that before. Yep.
You've seen it? Yeah, it's pretty good. We got to fly it, so that was. You probably haven't gotten to do that before, but
I did. No, I
twice. Also, this is a little up close look at the lightsaber, all the material. You got to pick out. You got to pick out the emitter. You got to pick out the sleeve. You got to pick out all the other stuff. It's good stuff. And I had one other best. Oh, what was my other best of the weekend?
Couldn't tell you.
Oh, I'll tell you it's actually my best and my worst of the weekend. Jake Bates. Former Arkansas kicker, Jake Bates, kickoff guy, I should say, is the best kicker in the NFL. I believe he's now 14 of 14, and he's the only kicker in the NFL that's 10 or 10 or better, from 10 of 10 or better on the year. He's 14 of 14, hit 2 50-plus yarders in the final 5 minutes to beat the Houston Texans last night on national television, and got a little shout-out from Dan Campbell in the postgame. So good for him. Yeah.
No, he's been awesome, man. And it's one of those things where, you went to Arkansas and he did kick some at Arkansas, but you're just like, man, why can't Arkansas spread out the kickers a little bit? You know, why couldn't why do you have to play at the same time Cam Little did? You know, like, can you just spread them out a little bit and not have 2 great ones? But because I'd like to know, honestly, truly asking, is Arkansas the only team, or how many teams where the starting kicker, 2 of them came from the same school in the NFL that are starting at the same time? I feel like that's got to be a rarity, right? Having Cam Little and Jake Bates, 2 Arkansas guys.
It might be a rarity, big picture, but it's a regularity under Scott Fountain. So
it's true. That's when once those guys left, that's when the dang it Scott started happening. So 100%. But also too, Andrew, I was a little disappointed in you. I'm not going to lie. I worked really hard on that video I edited for you for your lightsaber, and you didn't even give it a like in the group text. Like you didn't even acknowledge it. I worked really hard on that. And I was like, I fixed it for you. And you didn't even do, and I was like, wow, okay, Ellis. I thought you'd appreciate it. So
worst of the weekend, Andrew Ellis.
Yeah. Andrew just hates people giving him gifts for hard work. It's fine.
You sent it in the Inside Arkansas group message?
Of course, yeah. I sent it as soon as you sent us the video of it. And I went in the cap cut, did a few edits here and there. Yeah. Good stuff.
By the way, well, I will. Oh wait, hold on. Now I'm seeing it. I did not see this in the moment, but one, it was my birthday also, so it's like, am I really supposed to reply to your texts on my birthday? You know, like I turned 27.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, you just send texts. You don't return. You don't respond to them. You just send them.
Oh no, I like this.
Okay.
Duel of the Fates.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad. No, it doesn't mean as much now, but yeah.
No, this is good stuff. Also, how hard did you work on it?
It took me like 5 minutes, but
I was
still.
I was like, come on.
5 minutes is a long time in this day and age. It's an effort. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this real quick because I'm an idiot and I didn't load it, but I'm gonna spend some time talking about it before I get into it. But worst of the weekend for me. We got to stop this stuff of throwing things on the field, folks. We got to stop it. Like over the weekend, you had LSU fans throwing crap on the field after a call that they didn't like. And there was a delay in it and everything. Like, I think it was even the Utah BYU game, which is an intense rivalry. There was things being thrown on the field. Folks, we got to stop this. I don't care like what the call is. I don't care what happened. There is nothing good that can come from throwing things on the field. I know the idiots from Texas, which leave it to Texas for ruining it for everybody. But they looked like they got the call changed because they threw things on the field. But you got to stop this. I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can police it.
They're going to start putting those nets up, man.
and maybe that's what they got to do if it keeps happening. And I don't know if there's the technology or the way that if you find out who is doing it, but if you do find who's doing it, I am full support of banning that person from any sporting events in that particular team or even in college sports. Like, you got to be able to make a stand on that. So really frustrating that continues to happen, and hopefully it does not continue to happen and people just chill out. But in kind of a relation to that, I mentioned Utah and BYU. The athletic director for Utah was a little upset after the game. BYU won to remain undefeated. It's the Holy War. It's a big rivalry. But he was not too thrilled and not too pleased with the officiating in said game on Saturday.
I've been an athletic director for 12 years. This game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not. We won this game. Someone else stole it from us. Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner. This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight. Thank you.
Okay. A few things here. One, no, the officiating is not what got the game stolen from you. A stolen game is what happened with Arkansas and Auburn in 2020. Like, that was a game you could make the argument was stolen because there was a direct result at the end of the game, which was the difference between winning and losing. This is something to where I get, if you get frustrated, I love it when people go off on officials. I go off on officials. But I just don't think that was the battle as the athletic director of Utah that you needed to choose to being like, not only were the calls, it would have been one of the things that the calls were bad. We were not, you say they stole it from you. Then you call out the conference that you are now a member of as I was excited, but today I'm not. And then you just walk off. Like, I'm sorry. I like athletic directors being like fans, but that was a little over the top. That was a little ridiculous. And that, to me, is really stupid of him approaching it that way. And also, why didn't he have a press conference? What athletic director's going in did he go into the coach's press conference where the coach came in there? It's like, I'm going to sit down right now and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to walk out. I think that's
what he did.
What a joker. What a joker. Yeah. So it was very dumb.
We were very happy to join this conference. We lost to the Mormons. Now it's not so much, that's tough, man. My worst of the weekend is a combination of everything that happened in Columbia, Missouri. First of all, Oklahoma just fumbling away the football game because that paved the way for Missouri to win and Eli Drinkwitz to get in front of a microphone. And his whole thing about still being alive in the playoffs, have some awareness about where your team is at, first of all. And then he was doing a thing about, somebody tell Bob Stoops that Oklahoma just doesn't kick Missouri's ass all the time anymore. And like, any opportunity he gets to get in front of a mic and say something stupid, he takes advantage of that. And so shame on him as a worst of the weekend, but then also for Oklahoma fumbling the football and enabling that, which was annoying. And then my other one is just this anti-John Calipari agenda pushing that's going on. That's just ridiculous. And I'm really not talking about Big Blue Nation. I'm not. Although, John, what was it? We were driving back yesterday and I pulled up the tweet that had Arkansas's post-game press conference and it had 16 comments. All 16 were Kentucky fans taking a crap on them. So yeah,
they're not obsessed. They're not obsessed though.
Yeah. It's weird, whatever. But it's just, I don't understand how Arkansas can be criticized more harshly for losing by 5 on a neutral floor to Baylor than Baylor was for losing by 40 to Gonzaga. And it's not even close. And the only reason why is because there are folks out there who have an agenda that they have been waiting to push, and any ammunition they could get to do it, they're doing it now. And some of the stuff I'm hearing is ridiculous. You're 2 games into the damn season and you got people talking about how Arkansas is not a cohesive unit. Who is? At this stage of the year? I'll tell you who is. Gonzaga, who returned 7 of their 8 top scorers from last season. Brand new roster, brand new team. It's going to take time. And for those who are saying, oh, John Calipari's playing the hits, maybe he is repeating some things that he said in the past. That doesn't make them not true, first of all. And then go listen to any other damn coach in the country. Let's go listen to Mark Pope's BYU press conferences and his cute little one-liners. And I bet he's been repeating them at Kentucky. I guarantee you Eric Musselman is saying the same damn things at USC that he did at Arkansas. That's just kind of how this works. But the one that really, really got me with the field of 68, which is, I mean, it's whatever. Like, this is kind of their shtick. I get it. Was a question was asked right out of the gates about, like, what did you see from Arkansas? What do you think about Arkansas? And it was, Goodman goes, well, they don't have a point guard. They don't have a point guard. They don't have a point guard. What the hell are you talking about, man? Are we still doing this thing? Talk about the 3-point shooting if you want. Talk about the health concerns if you want. Talk about John Calipari not being prepared for the zone at the start of the game if you want. But when you have Boogie Fland, who has 17 points, 7 assists, and 0 damn turnovers, none, 0. And the first thing that comes out of your mouth is that they don't have a point guard. What the hell are you talking about? Stop it. Just stop it. And I hope Razorback fans don't take the bait. I really do.
Well, Curtis, that was beautiful stuff. And also, I like the point you made there at the end that, like, there are cards to play. Like, if you want to make fun of Arkansas, there are ways you can do it. And frankly, if you're a Kentucky fan, if Arkansas, just keep an eye. If Arkansas loses as a 3 or 4 seed in the NCAA tournament that's when you get to do the whole, oh, there's Coach Cal being Coach Cal. Not early in the year when a game that we kind of expected Arkansas to lose on the road against a top team, like that's not necessarily the victory lap, the time to do the victory lap. Now, if Arkansas, if it's January and Arkansas still can't shoot, Jonas Adu still looks rough, and they just really don't look great. Okay, you can really start chirping, but it's like almost like they know they have to get their licks in when they can, which they're gonna do it, man. But it is weird how, like, they do that, and then they're like, why does everybody think we're obsessed? We just watch every single show y'all do, and we comment on every single one, and we leave paragraphs after all these, and then we tweet at you during the game, after the game. Why do you think we're obsessed? It's like, well, that would be the reason. It's that mostly.
Well, and to echo what Curtis had to say, which you've said it perfectly, but when we were driving back from Dallas, this is my theory. This is my theory about the I'm not talking about Big Blue Nation, or even like Bobby Regan from Barstool Sports or whatever, because those are Kentucky. It's expected. We're not talking about that. But it's the national media. Here's my theory of why they have some sort of vengeance or vendetta against Cal and Arkansas. I think it had to go back to when he became the coach at Arkansas, because who was the one that reported it? Who was the one that got the scoop?
Wes Moore.
It was Wes Moore, local Arkansas media guy, which we could sit here and argue about it, but without question, the Cal to Arkansas was one of, if not the biggest college basketball sports story in 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, it was that level massive. And so I think that the national media guys are very resentful of the fact that they had that they felt like they had a good relationship with Cal. They felt like they had been talking with Cal, and that Cal could trust them and everything. And I think it pissed them off that they got scooped by a local media member. And that it was Cal, the one that all the story and all the credit went to Wes Moore, not to John Rothstein or Jeff Goodman or Norland or anybody. And I think that's why they're pissed. And I think that's why they're taking this type of approach towards Cal, is because they are still resentful of them, who are supposed to be in the know, supposed to have everything in front of them. They're always breaking news, but yet the biggest story ever was broken by a local media member. That's my theory behind it.
Yeah. I mean, you very well might be onto something there. And if you're going to do it, this is way too early to get on that train. Like I said, man, if they get popped by Troy and they don't look like they've improved against Illinois, I mean, if you actually have enough of a body of work for it to become a thing, then fine. 2 games into the year is crazy talk, and then have a little bit of context. Saying that, Nelly Davis is a shell of himself. He's not 100%, going on this whole tangent about the pick and roll defense and the interior without even acknowledging that Jonas Adu is hurt. I mean, just come on, man. If people believe in something enough, they will do whatever they can to find reasons to talk about it. And in this case, it's just people believe that John Calipari is washed or cooked or whatever. And it's just not going to stop.
That is the way that sports consumption works these days. It's like you have in your brain what you feel and what you believe and kind of what you want to believe. And you just, everything you're watching, you're trying to fit it into that box, into the way that you view the world, which frankly is like kind of what makes sports fun, because we all kind of view it through our own lens. But that's when it gets, you can see how hard people are working to try and force it. And it's pretty crazy. I have bad news to report. I am not going to be able to follow up Curtis's worst of the weekend well. because mine, I don't really have anything too much crazy to complain about. You know, I had a brilliant weekend. The one thing that I really thought was funny, we've made fun of a lot of college quarterbacks for making really stupid decisions on the last play of the game, a la Nico from Tennessee, and also Will Howard from Ohio State, who made terrible decisions on the last play of the game. Well, when an NFL quarterback does it, we've got to talk about it. I don't have the video because the NFL tweeted out, and you cannot do anything with NFL content. So y'all just gonna have to play the imagination game with me. But it's like 2nd and 4 at the 42 with 5 seconds left in the game. They're down by 3. So you got options. You either really immediately get one out of bounds, or you take a shot at the end zone. And Kirk Cousins just takes 3 seconds, goes through his progressions, dumps it off to the halfback who gets tackled out of bounds as time expires, and ball game. Now, Younghoe Koo, their kicker, had missed a couple kicks in the game. He probably was going to miss it anyway. I feel bad for him. I felt really bad for him. He looked very sad being consoled by Arthur Blank walking off the field. I don't know if y'all saw that, but yeah, I thought it was hilarious that Kirk Cousins did the thing that we're like, oh, I mean, I know they're just kids, but a college quarterback needs to do that. Well, Kirk Cousins, who's like a 10-year vet, really needs to know not to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Also, it just pisses me off that Kansas City keeps winning the way they do. It's dumb.
The satanic magic that they're using, yeah.
That was annoying.
Oh, it was like a 34-yard field goal that got blocked or something like that?
Yep. For the win, not for a tie or anything, just for the win.
They almost got Bo Nixed.
Yeah. It's just it's because they're not even that good, I feel like. But they still win. They're not a good team, but they're a winning team. And that's how it goes. But all right, well, that's enough. That's enough of the best and mainly the worst, because we had a lot of worst there too. But that's the best and worst of the weekend, presented by the Leroy Lounge. Again, we're going to be there Thursday. Come hang out with us, and we're going to talk a little Arkansas, Texas simulation there too. And that leads us right into our next one, because we got to look at the SEC and what was over the weekend. It's an SEC update presented by Rhoback. Go to Rhoback.com. Enter in promo code HOGSBY20 for 20% off your first purchase. Great gear, great apparel. You won't want to miss out. A lot of Razorback good stuff too. So again, check them out today. Rhoback.com. HOGSBY20 for 20% off your first purchase. A few games of note we mentioned from the previous, or this past weekend, since Arkansas was in the bye. Ole Miss did defeat Georgia 28-10. Florida trounced Texas, so that's got to make you feel really good if you're Arkansas. Or Texas trounced Florida, my bad. Strike that, reverse it. Yes, Texas trounced Florida. Yeah, no one's paying attention anyways. So that was not surprising at all. But then you had Tennessee beat Mississippi State 33-14. Tennessee and Georgia got a big one coming up. I think one of the biggest surprises, though, besides Ole Miss beating Georgia, though, was the way that Alabama just destroyed LSU there in Baton Rouge at night. 42-13. Jalen Milroe with 4 rushing touchdowns, 12 carries, 185 yards. They had no answer for him. And so much for the LSU Tigers of thinking that they still had a chance of maybe sneaking into the playoffs. Ain't going to do it when you're taking a big, fat home L against the Alabama Crimson Tide there at night in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that was some impressive work by Bama.
Mm-hmm. They're pissed.
It's just a superiorly talented team. Because that's kind of what we said about LSU is like, hey, they're, Brian Kelly's doing actually a pretty good job of overachieving, but they're not really on that same talent level as past LSU teams. That was men versus boys a little bit. I did not see that coming, frankly, but
no.
I feel a little bit vindicated for being as frustrated as I was after the LSU game, where I was like, I don't know if this is the story of LSU's just a ridiculous team or anything. I actually think I could buy that more of Ole Miss, even though they lost to LSU, because we agree they just handed that game away.
Especially when it's just so blatantly obvious that LSU has zero chance of defending a quarterback who can move, and Taylon Green couldn't move on that particular Saturday.
I know. Because I'm not – Jalen Milroe is great, but I don't see Jalen Milroe as just this far and away Michael Vick type of athlete that you just – nobody can even touch. It's like Taylon Green's pretty good too, but wasn't on that day at least. But the other game, we already talked about Oklahoma, Missouri, and I want to do it again or else I'll kill myself, but – also, South Carolina beat Vanderbilt 28-7. So South Carolina's kind of surging here a little bit.
They're good,
and they're 4-3 in SEC play, 6-3 overall. They got Missouri coming up, and I wanted to take a little bit of a shot at Missouri because they're drinking all them talking about that. Guys, Arkansas, according to Bet Saracen, Arkansas odds-wise, spread-wise, is about the same against Texas as it is South Carolina against Missouri. Texas is favored by, I believe, I forgot the latest line, but it was something to the extent of about 14.5 or 16.5, I think there. In this particular game with Missouri and South Carolina, It's moved a little bit, but it opened up as a 13.5-point favorite for South Carolina. So just
that
saying.
is interesting. I did not think that number would be that high.
Yeah, it's dropped down to 11 already. So going down fast, but the money and everybody, man, it opened up pretty largely.
Yeah, the Texas Arkansas line's down to 13.5 too.
Yeah.
Remember what I told you, Curtis?
Oh yeah.
We got to that point. I'm going to take it, but I'm not going to tell everybody who I'm taking. You'll just have to figure it out for yourself.
I'm going to guess based on the fact that it went one direction, you're taking Texas.
Oh yeah, absolutely taking it. And also speaking of the SEC, I did think it was funny. There's a possibility where there could be an 18 tie for the SEC regular season title. All it's got to take. This is all it's got to take. It would take Georgia defeating Tennessee, Texas A&M winner dropping a conference game before the rivalry clash with Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, and Missouri all winning out. That would be an 18 tie. And how they would decide it would be, number one is head-to-head competition among tied teams. Number two is record versus all common conference opponents among the tied teams. And three was record against highest best placed common conference opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the conference standings among the tied teams. So I'm kind of hoping for that, because one of those games that had to be mentioned could be Arkansas beating Texas. They could be the ones that throw it all into a mix. But just right now, guys, who do you think right now? SEC title game. Who is it? Who's it going to be?
Texas and
Texas
A&M.
I'm thinking Texas, Tennessee, because Texas and Texas A&M play each other. So in your scenario, Curtis, would that mean A&M beats Texas in the final game of the year, which would give Texas a second loss, make A&M 2 losses overall?
Yeah, and I don't know about Tennessee just because I can't see a world where Georgia loses 2 games in a row.
No, I don't think Tennessee either. Matter of fact, I might bet my entire life on Georgia in this game, because we all agree that Tennessee is not that good, even though they are getting the job done and winning most weeks. And Georgia's, to say that they're better than their record indicates, seems like an understatement almost. That's not like a normal 2-loss team. I feel like they're about to just absolutely wallop Tennessee.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be Texas A&M and Texas again, which is going to be really dumb because they played each other the week before. So it's like you get them twice. It's just really lame. Because
we worked out the math on the drive back yesterday, but I don't remember what we said to get there, John. So
yeah, it was very complicated, whatever it was. But because that would be the thing where, since this game between Texas and Texas A&M, it always used to be on Thanksgiving, but I don't believe it is this year. I think it's actually on Saturday this season. But now that they've redone it on that. But either way, it would just really suck if going into that game, the situation was, hey, no matter what happens, these are 2 teams going to meet in the SEC title game again. That would really suck and be really.
What do you do? Do you just play do you just start your backup? Do you just play backups maybe?
Maybe.
But I guess you can't really afford to lose the game, because the playoff, if you win the game, then you have a chance to, if Texas has 1 loss and they beat Texas A&M, they could afford to lose the conference title. So I guess they would just play it like normal and then go into the title game with house money.
Yeah, but if you're Texas, if you lose to A&M because you play backups and then you lose to them in the SEC title game again, then suddenly you're out of the playoff because you got 3 losses. So yeah, it could be pretty complicated.
You almost don't want to get to the SEC title game.
No,
people have said, man.
If Tennessee could lose to Georgia and still hang out in that 10 to 12 range, not go to the title game, Tennessee actually might have a pretty solid, that might be the best path for them, is just losing to Georgia and sticking around, other people losing around you.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Alabama, 2 of their national championships that they won under Saban, 2 of those years they didn't even play in the SEC title game because somebody lost or whatever.
2011 they didn't.
Yeah, 2011 they didn't. I want to say it was the 2017 year or something like that. I don't know. I have to go back and look. But either way, it's going to be pretty crazy and complicated here at the end of college football season.
I know Pittman talked about it a little bit, just kind of the craziness of all that, and then potentially adding a 9th game or whatever. Do they need to do something about this? Do go back to some form of division or something. I know it's tough to do with so many teams, but like, are we really going to decide the conference championship every year by like the 6th tiebreaker? And we could say like, oh, this is probably a rarity, but is it? Because the SEC is good. Like these teams are going to beat up on each other, man. I don't know. It seems bizarre.
I was going to say, man, they picked the worst possible year to go away from divisions, man. We could really use a division right about now. Everyone says that we're too divided as a country. Sometimes division works.
Yep.
You know.
Well,
case in point, no kidding.
Get back to the thing that was getting thrown around, the whole pod system or whatever, because that was when they were going to increase it to 9 games, and if they went to the pod system, it makes it a lot easier on that. So,
but then to Pittman's point, you're playing 9 conference games. If you're going to 9 conference games, we all just have to have a handshake agreement as a conference. We ain't playing nobody outside the SEC. We're not playing the opener against USC in Dallas, or we're not going to play Florida State in Miami, and none of that's happening. You're not playing Notre Dame. You're not playing Michigan. We're playing South Carolina State and just playing it out.
He said if you basically what he said is if you go to a 9-game SEC schedule and then you keep Notre Dame on there, you're playing the playoff. Like that's your schedule. And it's not that far from the truth, honestly.
Football is also not the sport you want to have that like grind week in and week out of.
Yeah. Well, they even said, I think he also put it as like, you just have people limping into the playoffs. Yeah. Everybody would be hurt. And I think there is some truth to that. So, sure. Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is, but it certainly seems like coaches are against the 9-game conference schedule. Other than Saban. Saban wanted 9 games, but that was mainly because he just got tired of playing really good teams all the time, and even though he beat them all in the non-conference,
they always crush whoever they play week 1.
Yeah, which is so funny. He always complained about. I was like, dude, you haven't lost a non-conference game since like the Bush administration. So I don't know what you're complaining about, but still, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out. And got 3 weeks, guys, 3 weeks left of college football. It's kind of sad.
3 weeks left of the regular season. And you still got a whole lot.
We still got all those really high level quality bowl games we got to get to.
Pop-Tart Bowl's coming. So,
dude, I will say, bowl season. Frankly, bowl season is way more entertaining to me than I don't want to say than like when like the teams like Arkansas. I'm more intrigued by Arkansas's potential bowl game than I am them playing Louisiana Tech and Missouri. If I'm an outside observer, let me clarify. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because if not, once these teams have 4 or 5 losses, if you're just a normal college football fan, do you care what Missouri's got going on? No. But if they're playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl and the guy's going in the oven and coming out the other end, you might.
They're eating him.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, they eat him after the game. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, or you get doused in mayonnaise over at the Mayonnaise Bowl or whatever, Duke's Mayo Bowl,
famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Come on.
Yeah, if you enjoy that stuff because of the zaniness of it, yes. But if you're trying to enjoy it because you want to see high quality football, then no. If you're wanting, because it's going to become chaos, which it should be, because you're going to have a lot of people opting out, transfer portal, all that stuff. You're throwing out there walk-ons. You have no idea what's going to happen.
If you want to see a game with the future of your program for that you're playing for a trophy, then watch a bowl that's not part of the CFP.
Well, that's what's cool about bowls is like I remember LSU fans would cite the bowl game with Garrett Nussmeier. They were like, we threw 4 touchdowns in the whatever hell bowl they played in. It was actually a pretty good bowl, but it's like what does that have to do with it? Like, does that really matter? He beat up Purdue's backup, but it's like it gives you something to kind of cite of like, well, hey, Davion Dozier, 3 catches, 42 yards. I'm just saying.
Well, it's like when Arkansas beat Penn State, and going 9-4 was a bigger difference than going 8-5, which is dumb because that bowl game did not matter. It was fun and all for fans because it had been so long, but it didn't really matter. So
Penn State had like the entire team out.
Yeah. Traylon Burks did not play, or he was just gone. He was outie 5,000. So
Curtis, you remember whenever that happened when Traylon Burks opted out, and I was at the haircut joint and I called you and I was like, hey. Yeah, you got to get something. You got to write a story about this. I'm in a haircut.
No, you got a haircut?
Well, that's how long ago this was.
Okay.
2021, when Traylon Burks opted out, I was getting a haircut. I'm sure I've had a couple since then, but
I feel like I would have remembered the haircut thing. I don't doubt that it happened, but like I remember some. I remember the Grant Morgan wins the Burlsworth and there were a couple other ones where we've been in those situations where something happens that we probably should have been prepared for in advance. And then when it goes down, one of us is texting the other like, hey, help.
Yeah, Anthony Black's commitment. I wrote that from Pee-wee or Payway Kitchen Chicken.
Pee-wee chicken, yeah.
Pee-wee Chicken.
Yeah. Luckily, I never had that in my life, so I don't know what y'all were talking about as far as what that meant. But it's a little bit different in the radio world. It's kind of like, oh, I guess I'll talk about that tomorrow. That's pretty much what it was. Like, yeah, we'll get to it tomorrow whenever the show starts. We'll be fine. So, but all right. Well, guys, any final thoughts? Any words of wisdom to the wise of our great loyal listeners out there?
Not really. I might see y'all tonight, so stay tuned in. Andrew may or may not join me. We'll see.
Wait, tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. On stream. I thought you were talking about in real life. I was like, are we going somewhere tonight? Okay. Yeah.
Welcome back, bud.
Well, that's what I was worried. I've been gone for a few days. I didn't know if y'all had some things on the schedule that I missed out. But yes, I will be seeing you tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. So be sure to subscribe to Inside Arkansas on YouTube. Hit that little bell up there, and it'll get you the notifications when you do subscribe. And be sure to follow us on our social media at Inside Arkansas. Check out our website, InsideArkansas.com, for all the latest and greatest up-to-date information when it comes to all things Razorbacks. And we're going to keep it going from there. So for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. We'll see you then.